so the first card we are going over in the deck is Tovolar Dire Overlord, which is the commander for this deck. And it's really nice because it is a 3-drop for 1 red and green. It's a legendary creature, a human werewolf, 3/3 on the front side. And it says whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat to damage to a player, draw a card, which is amazing. Just keep refilling your hand every time you smack someone in the face. And then it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. Then transform any number of human werewolves you control, and it has daybound. So this will transform all the new werewolves that have daybound because it becomes night, and then there's stuff that happens when it becomes night and stuff. But it also transforms like these guys who have backsides because it says transform any number of human werewolves you control. So that is really, really amazing. And so the first part we need to focus on right here is at the beginning of your upkeep if you control 3 or more. So we definitely need to get 3 werewolves out, preferably by turn 4, like by our upkeep on turn 4. So on turn 3, we have 3 of them out already. And let me flip it over for the backside. All right, so the backside gets a stats upgrade to a 4/4, and it's only a werewolf now. I'm pretty sure on the other side it was a human werewolf. And it says, it still has the text line, whenever a wolf or werewolf deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So that's amazing. Or a wolf or werewolf you control. And then it says, it has the ability X, red and green. Target wolf or werewolf you control gets +X, +0, and gains trample until end of turn. And this is on the nightbound side. So this ability to pump a werewolf and give it trample is super key in this deck, because what you can do is have this super lethal combat trick up your sleeve. Just swing in at someone before you, like, don't play anything on your first main phase. Swing in, and then if you don't want to pump anything, good, don't play your stuff on your second main phase, and you're still fine. But now you have this super awesome mana sink outlet right there on Tovolar. Alright, so now that we've covered Tovolar, we're moving on to the 1-drops. And the first 1-drop, you might have guessed it, is Soul Ring. Super good mana rock. It's run in every commander deck. Alright, so the second 1-drop is 1 red for a 1/1 human rogue werewolf. So it is a werewolf. This is going to help us with Tovolar's second ability of transforming everything, which is very good. And it says at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Reckless Waif. So it's not uncommon for you, if you go like first or second, to play this card on your turn, and then your opponent just drops a land and passes the turn with no turn 1 play, and this will just transform. And let me show you guys what it transforms into. So it's a 3/2 werewolf, and it says at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform Merciless Predator. So it's literally just a 3/2 from a 1/1. But what we're really looking at here and why it's in the deck is because it's a 1-drop werewolf. The second 1-drop wolf in our deck is 1 green for a 2/1 wolf. Ascendant Pack Leader enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. And then it says whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Ascendant Pack Leader. So this card does get more useful as the game goes on, but still, like I said, on turn 1, it's an amazing play just to get Tovolar's ability online as fast as we can. That's why it's in this deck. And the last 1/1 is Snakeskin Veil. It's 1 green instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. So this is great creature protection in our deck. And then also if you need to buff it for like a fighting mechanic, or just so it can not die during combat, it's there for that too. Very good card. Alright, so that's all the 1-drops that we have in this deck. But I would also consider when building this deck maybe putting in 1 more 1-drop wolf or werewolf just so you can get Tovolar's ability online faster. So we're moving into the 2-drops now, starting with Emergent Sequence. 2-drop sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That land becomes a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. It's still a land. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each land you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So I just have this in here for mana ramp, and then I guess it is nice to have it become a creature permanently, It doesn't say until end of turn, so that's nice. And then you put in most cases like 2+1/+1 counters on it, which is also nice. And you will see later how this creature could actually impact the board state a lot more than just having a normal 2/2. But we'll get to that later. The second 2-drop is Arnie Slays the Troll. It is a enchantment saga for red and green. And the first lore counter says target creature you control fights up to one target creature you don't control. So nice creature removal there, because most of the time our creatures are going to be bigger than our opponents when flipped over on the backside werewolf. The second is add red, put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. So this is amazing to buff probably Tovolar or something like that with trample. And then the third one says you gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So this is nice, just a life boost. This does a lot of things for us, but mostly what it's here for is that first ability, and then the other two abilities are just amazing to have along the line as well. All right, the third 2-drop is Kessig Forge Master for 1 in a red. It's a 2/1 creature, human, shaman, werewolf. Whenever Kessig Forge Master blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 1 damage to that creature. And then it says at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform it. And I'll flip it over real fast so you guys can see what the backside is. So this is a 2-drop on the front side, in case you forgot. It's a 3/2 werewolf. Whenever Flameheart Werewolf blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 2 damage to that creature. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if a player cast 2 or more spells last turn, transform it. So this is just a really nice attacker, breaking through a lot of blockers early game, and then just a nice werewolf body on the backside. All right, so we'll move right into the fourth 2-drop. It's an enchantment, Full Moon's Rise, 2-drop for 1 in a green. Werewolf creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. So the trample is amazing on this card, but it's also a form of board wipe protection because it has the second line of text, sacrifice Full Moon's Rise, regenerate all werewolf creatures you control. So this is huge. I cannot tell you how many games I've won by someone board wiping. Even though this is on the field, like they can see it, but I have board wipes in my deck, so I can do the board wipe and then flip or sack this. All my creatures are still there, but everybody else's creatures are not. So it's really nice in that way. And then it's also just buffing all your werewolves, which we are going to be attacking with a ton. So very valuable card in this deck. All right, Moonlight Hunt is the next 2-drop. Instant, choose target creature you don't control. Each creature that's a wolf or a werewolf deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So this is just creature removal in our deck. You need it in every deck, and it's very good because it's an instant form 2-drop and can take out basically every other creature, assuming that you have creatures on the field. Outland Liberator is the next 2-drop, so it's a 2-drop 2/2, and it has the ability pay 1, sacrifice Outland Liberator, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and that's the daybound side, so I'll flip it over for you guys real fast. And this is really nice because it's a body that can also serve as the utility purpose of destroying artifacts or enchantments, but the backside is way better. It's a 3/3 now instead of a 2/2, and it has the same ability, pay 1, sack it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. And then it says, whenever Frenzied Trapbreaker attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. So this is huge. You can attack someone with the scariest artifact or enchantment, destroy it, and then they have a 3/3, likely bigger than that because we have a lot of Anthem buff effects. The very good card in this deck, for sure. Rampant Growth is the next card. 2-drop sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put it into play, tapped, shuffle your library afterwards. So it's literally just mana ramp. Very good though. Unnatural Moonrise is the next card. It's red and a green sorcery. It becomes night. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card and it has flashback for 4. So there are a few Milla effects or like discard effects in this deck, not a ton, but the flashback is really nice on this. And then if you need that clutch flip over, I guess, and then it also draws you a card and gives it +1/+0 and trample, so it has a ton of utility. I find this card actually surprisingly valuable in this deck. I didn't think it would be. I ran it for a few games and I got super good usefulness out of it. So yes, I would recommend putting this in your deck. The next card is Ulvenwald Captive. Sorry about that name pronunciation. 2-drop 1/2 Defender Werewolf Horror. You can tap it, add green to your mana pool, and pay 7 and transform it. So I'll show you what the backside is. But most of the time, you know, we don't need to pay 7 because Tovolar will just do it for free, or other stuff will transform it. So the backside is a 4/6 2-drop, which is insane in this deck. And then you can tap it to add 2 colorless, just like a Soul Ring. So if you get this card flipped over for a 2-drop, this is insane value. So you definitely need to put this in your deck. Very, very good attacker and mana generator. So very good card. Next up, we got Gruul Charm. Red and a green instant. Choose one. Creatures without flying can't block this turn or gain control of all permanents you own. Or Gruul Charm deals 3 damage to each creature with flying. So this can take out a bunch of flying Thopter tokens, which comes in useful a lot. And then can make like all your opponent's creatures not block until end of turn. Just has a ton of usefulness on a 2-drop instant. That's why it's in here. The next card is Signal the Clans. For red and a green instant, search your library for 3 creature cards and reveal them. If you reveal 3 cards with different names, which you always will in Commander, unless they're basic lands, I guess, choose one of them at random and put that card into your hand, then shuffle the rest into your library. So you get one of the 3 creature cards into your hand. This card's very fun to play, but it also comes in very useful at instant speed, so I would recommend putting it in your deck. Next up, we got Goblin Anarchomancer. It's red and green for a 2/2 creature Goblin Shaman. Each spell you cast that's red or green costs 1 less to cast, so this is just going to reduce the cost for every single card in our deck that is colored. Next up, we got Moon Mist. For 1 and a green instant. Transform all humans. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures other than werewolves and wolves. So very good combat trick. It's also instant speed, which is very nice. They won't see it coming, and this can just protect your entire board state. It also transforms them all, which is very cool. Next up, we got Paxton Pup. For 1 and a green, 1/1 creature wolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control another wolf or werewolf, put a +1/+1 counter on Paxton Pup, and then when Paxton Pup dies, you gain life equal to its power. So this can just get huge throughout the game, and then give you a nice life boost when it dies. So yeah, it's very good. Next up, we got Destructive Revelry. For red and a green instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Destructive Revelry does 2 damage to that permanent's controller. So this is just going to take out one of your opponent's artifacts or enchantments and then hit them in the face for 2, which is very nice. Next up, we got Scorned Villager. For 1 and a green, 1/1 creature human werewolf. Tap, add green to your mana pool, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if no spells were cast this last turn, transform it, and it transforms into a 2/2 with Vigilance. Tap, add 2 green to your mana pool, and then if someone casts 2 spells, you transform it. Next up, we got a Braid. For 1 and a red instant, choose one. It deals 3 damage to target creature and destroy target artifacts. So some nice creature removal and artifact removal at instant speed. And the last 2-drop, and one of the best 2-drops in this deck, is Kessig Naturalist. For red and a green 2/2, whenever Kessig Naturalist attacks, add red or green, and then until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. That's the day-bound side. And then when we flip it over, it transforms into a 3/3, that's off camera, a 3/3 werewolf. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1, which is huge effect in this deck. We really need effects like that. And it says, when Lord of the Ulvenwald attacks, add red or green, and then you don't lose it as steps and phases end on the Nightbound side. So really good card in this deck for just 2 mana. All right, moving on to the 3-drops now. We got Reckless Stormseeker. For 2 and a red, 2/3 human werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. That's on the Daybound side. And then it transforms into a 3/4 werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. So this is just a really nice buff effect and a really nice body. The next 3-drop is Breakneck Rider. For 1 and 2 red, 3/3 human scout werewolf. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform it. Transforms into a 4/3 that says, attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. And then if someone casts 2 spells, transform it. Very, very good buff effect on a nice 4/3 body. Next up, we got Pax Betrayal for 2 and a red. Sorcery, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. And then it says if you control a wolf or a werewolf, scry 2. So we pay 3 to scry 2, gain control of like someone's commander or very important creature, swing at an opponent, hopefully it dies, and then we also scry 2, which is very, very good. Next up is Crosan Grip for 2 and a green instant split second, which means as long as this spell is on the stack, players cannot cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. And it says destroy target artifact or enchantment, so very nice removal. Next up is the Celestis, 3-drop legendary artifact. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. You can tap it, add 1 mana of any color, pay 3, tap it. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. Activate only as a sorcery. And then it says, when day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So this is going to allow you to draw, discard, and gain 1 life throughout the game tons of times. And then you have the ability to tap out mana. It makes it night when it enters, and then you can pay 3 and make it night as a sorcery. So tons of utility on this card, and it adds up a ton over the course of the game. Very good card. Next up, we got Harrow, 2 and a green instant. As an additional cost to this spell, sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Next up is Hunter's Insight for 2 and a green instant. Choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. So this is very good in combination with Tovolar's pump effect. We can pump a creature and then just draw tons of cards at instant speed, which is very, very good. Next up is Hermit of the Natternals for 2 and a green, 2/3 human werewolf. Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, draw a card. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast, transform it. It transforms into a 3/5 werewolf, and it says whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, draw 2 cards, and then if they cast 2 spells, flip it back over. So very, very good body, and then this just prevents them, or at least you get to draw cards if they do stuff on your turn, which is very good. Next up, we got Howl of the Hunt, 3-drop for 2 and a green, flash enchantment, or an enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, if it enchants a wolf or werewolf, untap that creature, and then it says enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. So this is a cool blocking trick. It has a flash, and then it just buffs the creature permanently, which is amazing. Next up is Hound Tamer for 2 and a green, human werewolf, 3/3 trample. You can pay 4, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's the day bound side, and then it transforms into a 4/4 werewolf, trample. Other werewolves you can draw up trample, which is very good. The anthem effects in this deck are very, very good, and then you can still pay 4 and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Alright, the next 3-drop is Cultivate for 2 and a green sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. So nice mana ramp right there. Then we got Spirit of the Hunt for 1 and 2 green. 3/3 creature wolf spirit with flash, which is super nice. And it says when Spirit of the Hunt enters the battlefield, each other creature that's a wolf or werewolf gets +0/+3 until end of turn. So this can help you with blocking or having your creatures attack and not having them die. And it has flash, so it's very versatile. Play it in combat or your opponent's combat. Very, very good card in this deck. Next up, we got Retrieve for 2 and a green. It's a sorcery that says return up to 1 target creature and 1 target non-creature permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Retrieve. So this gets 2 cards back from your graveyard. One of them is a creature and one of them is a non-creature permanent. So you basically get to draw like 2 select cards. Well, it's not like that at all, but yeah, it's good. Retrieve cards from your graveyard. Very nice. Next up, we got Howling Moon. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then it says whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green creature wolf token. So this card is, I've played with this card and I get it out a ton in my games. It is very valuable. The amount of 2/2s that you get over the course of the game is very good. And then also the ability to buff a wolf or werewolf on your beginning of your combat for +2/+2 is amazing. So you can play this before your combat on turn 3 and have your turn 1 or 2 creature drop that you have become like a 4/4 swinging at someone's face. It's very good. And we also have ways to buff up each werewolf and wolf in our deck, so these 2/2s are easily going to become like 5/4s and stuff like that. So super good card in this deck. Definitely recommend putting it in. Next up, we got Dire Strain Rampage. It's a 3-drop for 1 red-green sorcery. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land was destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Otherwise, its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto battlefield, tap, shuffle, or tapped, then shuffle. And it has flashback for 3 green and red. So I think this card is very good, and let me explain why. So it's a 3-drop sorcery, so it's inexpensive to cast, right? Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land, so it can hit 3 targets. And then it says if a land was destroyed this way, you get, its controller gets 2 basic land cards, puts them onto the battlefield taps. So this can ramp yourself if you destroy your own land, which is very key to this card being good in your deck. But it also hits your opponent's lands, artifacts, and enchantments in return of them getting 1 or 2 lands if you do hit one of their lands. So I think this card's very good, and then it does have flashback, so you can do it again. I like this card a ton. You'll have to tell me what you think about it in the comment section down below, but I definitely think it's very good. Next up, we got Lifecaster's Bestiary, 3-drop artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, and then whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay a green, and if you do, draw a card. So this is just going to keep our hand full of cards, and then the scry 1 at your upkeep is also very nice. Next up is Howlpack Resurgent for 2 and a green. Enchantment Flash, so Flash is very good on this card. And then it says each creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf gets +1/+1 and trample. So you can flash this in after blocks, buff all your werewolves so they take unexpected damage, and then the ones that they blocked can still trample through onto them. This card has won me games before, and it's very good for just the inexpensive cost of 3 mana in this deck. Next up, we got Weaver of Blossoms, 3-drop 2/3 human werewolf. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. It has Daybound, and then the backside transforms into a 3/4, and you can still tap it to add 1 mana of any color. So this is nice for mana ramp, and then it has a very good attacking body on the backside. Next 3-drop is Oakshade Stalker, 3/3 human ranger werewolf. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it, which is very awesome. That's the Daybound side. And then the back side is a 6/3. And the front side flash ability, you can flash it in, and then if it's night, it just enters on the 6/3 side. So I think this card's really good. Very good attacking body in this deck, which we definitely need lots of attacking power. And the last 3-drop is Lambholt Elder, 2/1 human werewolf. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform it. And the backside transforms into a 4/5. Whenever Split or Silver Pelt Werewolf deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and then if 2 spells were cast, transform it back over. So this is a very nice attacking body, and then it draws you cards, and card draw is just very good in Commander. So definitely great card. Moving into the 4-drops, the first 4-drop is Afflicted Deserter for 3 and a red, 3/2 human werewolf. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform it. Transforms into Werewolf Ransacker, 5/4 werewolf. Whenever this creature transforms into Werewolf Ransacker, you may destroy target artifact. If that artifact is put into a graveyard this way, Werewolf Ransacker does 3 damage to the artifact's controller. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform it. So this is great because when it transforms, we get to take out an artifact and hit the person who had the artifact for 3, and then it's a 5/4 body, which is awesome. Next up, we got Chain Reaction. It's a 4-drop for 2 and 2 red. Chain Reaction does X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So this is just like a board wipe in our deck, but we do have an amazing combo with this, so I'll put this card to the side, and I'll show you the combo later when the card comes up. So next up is Ballista Watcher, 4-drop for 2 and 2 red. 4/3 human soldier werewolf. Pay 2 and a red, tap it. Ballista Watcher does 1 damage to any target, which is awesome, and that's the Daybound side. And then it transforms into a 5/5, we can still pay 3, tap it, and it does 1 damage to any target, and it says a creature dealt this way can't block this turn. Next up is Inara Wolvid Familiar, 4-drop 4/4 Wolf Beast legendary creature, and it says as long as it's your turn, commanders you control have indestructible. So this is going to give Tovolar indestructible on our turn, so we can pump Tovolar with his own ability and have him swing in for a bunch of trample damage. Next up is Harmonize for that draw 3. It's very nice, very good card in Commander. Then we got Relentless Assault, 4-drop sorcery, untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So extra combat, very, very good. Then we got Child of the Pack, 4-drop for 2 red-green, 2/5 human werewolf. You can pay 2 red-green, create a 2/2 wolf creature token. That's on the daybound side, and then it transforms into a 5/5 trample. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 on the nightbound. So this is really good, buffing all of our other werewolves so we can deal some massive damage in combat. And then we got Ill-Tempered Loner. So this is the card that I was talking about with the combo. Let me zoom out a bit. Oh, actually, I don't need to. Okay. So the front side is 3/3 human werewolf. Whenever Ill-Tempered Loner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. We can pay 2. Ill-Tempered Loner gets +2/+0 until end of turn. That's on the daybound side, right? And then we flip it over. Howlpack Avenger, 4/4. Whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, Howlpack Avenger deals that much damage to any target. We can still pay 2 and buff it by +2/+0 until end of turn. So if we chain reaction, it deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. Then every permanent that's dealt damage is going to deal that much damage to any target. So if we have a bunch of werewolves out with a bunch of life, we don't even need that much life. But yeah, because they still get dealt the same amount of damage. It doesn't matter the toughness, never mind. So we deal a bunch of damage to them equal to the amount of creatures on the field. And this is going to deal, like for each creature, we deal that much damage to any target, blasting players' life totals and taking them out. I've won 3 times like this, and I've played this deck like 8 times. So you win a lot off this combo. People might see it coming after you've done it to them before, but if you haven't done it to them before, it's pretty fun. All right, and then the last 4-drop is Howlpack Piper. So for 3 and a green, you get a 2/2 human werewolf. This spell can't be countered, so that's awesome. Then you can pay 2, tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If it's a wolf or a werewolf, untap Howlpack Piper. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is like an insane ability. If you give your creatures haste, which there is ways to do that in here, and then you can play all the werewolves from your hand, wolves and werewolves, like for 2 mana each, which is insane. You can cheat out some big creatures, and then it also transforms into Wildsong Howler, which says whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Wildsong Howler, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Alright, moving into the 5-drops, we got Sage of the Ancient Lore, Star, Human Shaman Werewolf. Sage of the Ancient Lore's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand, and when it enters, you draw. Transforms into still a Star, Werewolf, Vigilance Trample. Its power and toughness are still equal to the number of cards in all players' hands. So on the front side, it just said your hand. All players' hands. That is insane power and toughness. You can get a ton of damage through with this guy. And even if no one has any cards in their hand, or like on the front side, if you don't have any cards, we have so many cards that say werewolves you control get +1/+1 that it won't die. So I've dealt tons of damage with this card, and then the vigilance on it is also very nice. Creeping Renaissance is up next. 5-drop sorcery. Choose a permanent type, then return all cards of the chosen type from the graveyard to your hand with flashback 7. So we can just choose creature and return all the creatures from our graveyard to our hand. So this card's very good. And it also has flashback, which is nice. Got Village Watch, 5-drop, haste 4/3. And then the back side is werewolves and wolves you control have haste, which is very good. Then we got Overrun. It says creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. So this is going to allow us to close out games or take out players. Very good pump spell. We got Cult of the Waxing Moon, creature, shaman, human, 5/4. Whenever a permanent you control transforms into a non-human creature, put a 2/2 wolf creature token onto the battlefield. So this happens a lot in our deck, so we're going to get a bunch of 2/2 wolves that will likely be bigger than 2/2. We got Glorious Sunrise. I think this card's a very good commander card. 5-drop enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn, which is very good in this deck. And then we have target land, gains tap, add 3 green until end of turn. Draw a card if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, or you gain 3 life. So this really does it all, just depends on what you need in this deck. We got Shamanic Revelation, 5-drop sorcery. Draw a card for each creature you control, and then you gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Then we got Kessig Cage Breakers, 3/4. Whenever Kessig Cage Breakers attacks, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token that's tapped and attacking for each creature in your graveyard. So all our wolves and werewolves that died are going to come back in the form of 2/2 tokens every time this attacks. That's very good. Then we got Overwhelming Stampede, and this card has won me so many games. So it's a 5-drop sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So like your greatest power among creatures you control might be 7. All your creatures get +7/+7 and trample. This is just a huge effect, and we do make a lot of 2/2 wolf tokens, so this is going to be able to close out games like nothing. And the final 5-drop is Infestation Expert, 5-drop 3/4 human werewolf. When Infestation Expert enters the battlefield or attacks, create a 1/1 insect creature token. And then the backside is a 4/5. Whenever Infested Werewolf enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1s, and then there's also a werewolf on the back. And finally, we got the 6-drops. We only have 2 of them. The first one is Wolfkin Outcast, 5/4. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a wolf or werewolf. So really it's like a 4-drop, because we basically always have a wolf or werewolf. And the backside is a 6/5. When Wedding Crasher or another wolf or werewolf you control dies, draw a card. So for a 4-drop, basically this is a very good card. And then ending the deck out, we got Tovolar's Huntmaster, 6/6 for 6. When Tovolar's Huntmaster enters the battlefield, you make 2 2/2 wolves. And then the backside is a 7/7. Whenever Tovolar's Pack Leader enters the battlefield or attacks, you make 2 2/2 wolves. And then you can pay for another target wolf or werewolf you control fights another target creature you don't. So this is great. It makes a bunch of wolves and it can fight stuff, and it's a 7/7. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.